Hello? Hello?
Yes, now
There it
you're
went.
unmuting us.
Now we've got
There.
people.
There we are. Hi. Okay.
Better?
Sorry. That's my bad.
Usually
Uh,
it has the issue.
Do I need to go ahead and start us over?
We can.
Since we
Since we
weren't
weren't-
alive?
Since we weren't awake, sure.
All right. I call this meeting to order
6:02.
6:02 on Wednesday, October 11th.
And I second that.
So we don't have, roll call.
I'll go back to the roll call.
Yes, please.
Wendy Frenzel,
Here.
Sandy Kalish here, Shannon Lane here, Todd Lane
Here.
Lori Rafferty
Here.
Andrew Lowry
Here.
Trevor Smith
Here.
Ruth Bourne.
Here,
Yay. And Mayor Rick Combs is absent and Julie Misak is absent.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I second. All right, I have a first and a second. All those in favor of approving the agenda for tonight's meeting, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. So agenda's been approved. Meeting minutes for September 27th. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the 27th?
I make a motion to approve it.
All right,
I second.
I have a motion made in a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion has been made and approved for the minutes of September 27th. Do you have one, sign up here?
I was gonna say I had one right here, but you can sign that one.
All right. All right, updates on zoning code.
so, does everybody have a copy in front of them?
Yep.
Yes, they do.
Okay. So I'm gonna try to go quickly because there's a lot of revisions from our previous, actually, 2 meetings in order to get those uses and zone districts implemented with the zoning code. So now everything tracks. And so I'm using my big screen, which is why I'm not on video. And as always, interrupt me whenever you want. So under 16.1, we added just a preface for generally. I revised the adult entertainment establishment to be more specific. We added, which I would like you guys to review because you have better knowledge than I do in town. For our agriculture zoning description now. So if you could take a look at that in detail. I mean, I think it works, but.
Anybody have thoughts on agriculture? Does it sound okay?
Sounds fun to me.
The next definition is alcoholic beverage and medical marijuana operations. Because we have it now as special review uses in our code. And they're not permitted in some areas, most of the town for marijuana. I added alteration, amphitheater, automotive sales and repair. I think we get rid of the word major, as we discussed, but you may, it's probably, if you guys could look at that, if you're comfortable with that. Because what we discussed is, it didn't make sense to have major and minor. So we just made it one broad definition. So it says, the thing that concerns me the most with this is overnight outdoor storage of vehicles is prohibited. I'm not sure that's gonna work in town.
No.
Okay. So I think we just get rid of that part.
Yes.
How
Yes.
about repairs and conducted completely inside?
Also,
Not realistic.
I would have to say no. I mean, there's certain things that, like if you got a really busy shop or something, I mean, I think it's okay to maybe. I know what you're saying, like oil changes and stuff. I don't want that stuff done outside because they'll just drop the oil and let it sit on the ground and everything. So, I guess, do we need to maybe define what you can do outside? I mean, like,
If all your bays are busy, and you have
exactly,
somebody call up the basically the shifter clip or something broke. So you
Yeah.
gotta turn around and pull it in, all your bays are full, and you're gonna slide underneath there real quick, put another clip on or whatever,
Mhm.
and then go. It's
I'm
not
good.
like they're gonna be pulling the engine and trannies out,
right,
you know,
yeah,
in
No,
front,
but-
and I think that's the main thing.
But they could,
The
though.
only other thing that I can foresee, just being involved with the train wreck of parts availability. That if these
Right.
guys, as hard as these guys run and as backed up as they are. And you got something on in your shop. And you realize that you're gonna be 3 days before you get the appropriate part.
Mhm.
And they roll it out of their garage, they leave it out here to utilize that bay, because real estate's tight.
Mhm.
And utilize that bay to keep moving. And so it sits out there. I mean, they're not necessarily doing work, but it's in process. That's out there. I mean, you can make it as miserable as you want. I guess.
Well, at that moment in time, though, you shouldn't probably have a hood off or things all tore apart.
Well,
it's-
I mean, it's easy to say that they got a hood off or that they do have. You know,
I mean, you can have an engine out and still have the hood down and backed out. You know, there are certain, ways to go around it where it appears like it's a complete car sitting out there waiting for a
So
repair.
is this, we just put a time limit on how long they can keep a car out of a bay?
You
Or
know,
like a
but-
week or something like that?
No,
My truck set up at,
I thought about that too, but sometimes, like our country right now, you wait 6 months for one little part, right?
yes.
mhm.
And that
What
seems,
Liquid.
a little unfair. To somebody, especially if the vehicle isn't operable.
So for those times that maybe a minor repair, as you talked about, Andrew, would just kind of flipping a little clip or something. Maybe we could say, except in cases of minor repairs that take 15 minutes or less.
I don't think, that seems like we're over regulating.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just to, give
I mean,
people for not having to always be in a bay. But we want the majority of things done in a bay. So I'm just trying to figure out, is there a way that we can call a win-win?
Well, if you read down here, it says establishments with outdoor storage shall be located in appropriate zoning districts. So basically, I believe it would be separate from. Like a personal loan, my house, for instance,
Right,
a car broke down, it's not gonna be fixed in 15 minutes.
Right, and that this is talking about automotive sales and repair establishments,
right. So there,
not you
Just be
personally.
One,
it's a business
But
to
if-
do car work. So if we bring this to them and say, sorry, you can't have a car outside and you can't work on it, but hey, I'm zoned to work on it. I'm the business,
Right.
I'm zoned here to work on it.
right,
So now you're telling me I can't work on it?
Right,
That's
and
not gonna
that's-
fly.
that's not gonna
Right,
fly
and
at all.
And that, so here's the other part, if we're talking about automotive sales, has to also be done with inside. All sales and repairs must be conducted inside a completely enclosed building. I'm sorry if I'm over at Who Motors, I'm not gonna necessarily be haggling inside.
Right.
Yeah,
Just tossing that out there,
Yeah.
so those are different things that we need to look at
Yeah.
as the whole picture.
I agree.
Does this have anything to do with like trying to not change oil outside? I mean, is that something to be considered like?
Well,
I would be
Does it
concerned
have-
about, because, yeah,
I
you don't
mean,
want
so
spoil
it'd
in
be
the
like-
soil
And or gasoline or something? I mean, I think that's where the line would be drawn, wouldn't it be like, don't do that outside?
there's state and federal laws about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's already that, but at the same time, if I'm working on stuff outside, I mean. I'd rather be in the shop if I'm doing stuff. I'd rather have a truck on the lift.
Mhm.
That's in a perfect world.
What's our main goal with
So-
this? We don't want,
So at the end of the day, you gotta realize that we are
We
in,
just don't want
we
oil
are
on
in Kiowa, Colorado.
Mhm.
We're not in Cherry Hills, we're in Kiowa. And there's a lot of things that may not exactly fit the prestige and posh of somewhere else.
Mhm.
So there are gonna be things that
Yeah.
do happen outside,
But I would think we would try to prevent the oil and the gasolines from
but
like contained at least.
well,
you
Trevor, I
realize that-
appreciate that, but
On the
even though we're
owners-
not Cherry Creek, we're Kiowa, I still take pride in where I live. And we don't want it to look like, what do we wanna say, a garbage zone or a junkyard?
well,
You can have a business, but let's keep it neat and tidy. I think that's what the zoning is gonna be about, right?
absolutely, but I don't like it. Like the repair shop on this end of town or that end of town. Last thing they want is they want their image, they're they're very conscientious about it, so they don't want oil spills or anything else that's out in front of their shop front as well. So those guys, that's part of the reason why they hate doing anything outside, cause if there's in a spill, it's harder, it's almost twice as hard to clean up out there versus
Yeah.
in the shop.
And they already have state and regulated where they have to put their oil and where they have to take it and all that stuff.
So then that would almost
I mean,
limit it.
What we're
less
talking
by
about right
state
now would
regulations.
be as my car,
Vehicle
for,
sitting
for
around.
instance,
Okay.
has an oil leak. Well, I can't put a can under it every night when I pull in the driveway.
That's true.
I mean, that's where
Okay,
we're
okay,
going with
I
this,
say we just
right?
leave it alone and roll with it, right?
Well,
And then,
we're gonna take out the word major.
okay,
We're gonna also take out the word about overnight outdoor storage of vehicles is prohibited, because we know there are times vehicles are
You
gonna
have to
have
be
to,
outside.
they're gonna
Yep.
have to sit there
Yep.
because of waiting for stuff. Now, I understand about not selling fuel, gasoline, petroleum products.
Right.
Let's look at the last couple lines. Automotive sales and repair establishments with vehicles left outside overnight are considered to have outdoor storage and therefore not accessory to the establishment. Establishments with outdoor storage shall be located in appropriate zone districts. Ruth, help us out with that. What's the, how?
I think we just delete it and then let's say somebody comes in and wants to, you know, open an auto repair store or a truck repair store in town and it's in the proper zone district, we still have the flexibility and authority to add conditions about that that specific use when we approve it under the development standard. So this is
Perfect.
limited to a definition. And, I always say, let's try to be broad generally with definitions, because there's other ways we can get at controlling a specific use in town.
Okay, perfect.
So how much is disappearing then?
So major's coming out,
right?
Overnight outdoor storage of vehicles is prohibited is coming out. And then the last two sentences are coming out.
And then is the all
Well-
sales and repairs must be conducted inside a completely
Yeah.
enclosed building
That
coming
should
out?
be out. too.
Yep.
That whole.
Yeah,
thing.
that's overnight sales
Okay.
and repair conduct, yeah,
Okay, just checking. Just wanted to make sure I'm,
crossing out the right stuff.
yeah, keeping up here.
Okay,
Okay,
cool, perfect.
all right, Ruth, ready for the next one?
We added a definition for bar or tavern. Bed and breakfast, we didn't have that before. Building, which seems obvious, but not really. And then we discussed bulk storage because that's now enumerated in our uses. And so there's two definitions there for petroleum gas and dangerous materials. We added a definition for a childcare center, which would have permitted for 5 or more children.
Okay.
Just give us a second on childcare real quick.
Okay.
Lori, does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that good for you guys?
Yeah,
I mean, I think
that's
that's
what
what we
it
thought about,
states.
yeah.
I
still have to
come and listen tonight.
Yeah.
Rick's is
here. You guys good? Okay. Ruth, we're good.
Okay, church was next. Code, common property is helpful, it really goes to PUDs. We added covenants,
What's that place of worship that's limited one single thing?
developable area, development plan, which is helpful moving forward.
Well, Ruth, just a minute. Lori has a question.
No,
Okay.
we're just reading church.
Okay.
What, church?
Yeah, we're just. What is a place of worship is limited to one single family dwelling unit?
Means
So
one
that would
bill.
be a house. So that would allow a resident to live on where the church was, like a priest having a place to live or,
Like a
It's
person.
one
in church
place.
and then- Okay. Okay, I'm good.
All right, we're good. Thank you.
no problem. Common property, covenants, developable area, development plan. I define family more specifically. As we all know, that's a bigger issue, so you may want to take a look at this family childcare home. Remember, we discussed that at length a couple weeks ago. Frontage funeral home. I think we talked about that. Gas station. We did talk pretty extensively about group homes and developmentally disabled homes, so you may want to take a look at those two definitions.
Where is, we talked about like maybe a halfway house for people coming out of rehab and those being group homes too. Is that?
We
Still-
made those,
That's a group home, because they're mentally dis-
we didn't allow those uses in town.
Okay,
You guys didn't want to see them.
okay, so the group home is limited to the developmentally disabled, mentally ill kind of group home. Okay.
Yes.
So you can have a group home that's just generally that houses not more than 8 people at 60 years of age or older. And then you can have a group home for developmentally disabled or mentally ill people which is also
Okay.
no more than 8 people.
Okay, thank you.
The only thing we don't have is a place for recovering drug addicts and alcoholics. We can certainly add that back in, we just. that's what-
We didn't really have it in there the first time but we were talking about that, like. I mean, do we need a definition for it at all or not?
I mean,
Do you
somebody,
It depends on if you want one. If you want one of those in town.
No,
let's
I-
say
I'm
so
not saying whether is in town or not, but should we have a definition? Cause it seems like. I don't know, my mind goes first to when I hear group home of a halfway house for, recovery. Oh, but I mean, I'm fine if you guys are fine, so I just don't know if it feels like because it's not mentioned that.
wasn't that under the thing where it said special use or special review? Or
Yeah.
special use or
Uh-huh.
special-
have a
So,
lot of,
wants to open
when
it,
that came up, we made them unpermitted uses.
right,
Okay,
But, let's just keep this in mind as we go through, because we're gonna look at that again in more
Okay.
detail in a few minutes. And, the good news is we can keep making these revisions better and better.
yep,
We have a definition of heavy industrial. Because we now have that in our zoning code. I added height. We now have hospital, hostel, hotel, motel, and then that intermediate healthcare facility when we talked about, those urgent care facilities that are now provided for in our town code.
okay.
Landscaping. Oh, this should be highlighted, light industrial.
Oh, oops. I didn't catch that one.
And then light industry, those are 2 different things.
Willow.
Did this work for everybody?
Is everybody okay with light industrial?
Yes.
We added lot coverage. Modular home. Multifamily, which we've needed in the code. Nightclub, non-conforming use. Here we have a nursing care facility. We also talked about that.
Mhm.
Now we have a definition for our zone district map. You might want to take a look at this office, see if you have any objections to that.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I say, oh, it's good.
And we have the financial institutions in there, so, yeah.
Yeah,
Off-street parking, open space, we really didn't have one, now we do. I think the biggest one here is outside storage. You might want to look at that. So that means you can still keep all, ATVs, snowmobiles and so on outside.
Oh, that's-
They belong.
Well, and most everybody has something, so.
Yeah.
We need to have something.
When you say outside, is that in the front yard or in the backyard?
That's
Or just-
outside.
Sorry, Ruth, what was that?
I don't know, to me, outside is outside, like anything outside your home. A lot of jurisdictions I work in, you have to have them on a paved surface.
Yeah. Or you have to have them on the left side of your house. northwest side of your house.
But do we need to say something about front or back or anything?
No. I don't think so. I mean, you're not gonna park your stuff right in front of your house.
No,
Hopefully nobody else would either,
but
but
I wonder if that is.
of course, my
But-
neighbors have theirs.
But right now, we can define what outside storage is. When we talk about other things down the road, then we can define in residential, outside storage of these items is located in X.
Right.
If you have an HOA, HOAs usually take care of that, but in our town, we get rid of HOAs.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so as long as we circle back and we do.
We can
Yeah,
define
it'll
it
be
later.
back in,
if it's
so-
something-
Because right now, we all have a neighbor who has a couch outside his house, so. I mean, We
But I
want
have
that?
trailers.
No, we don't.
I think we all have.
But-
With the free stuff.
But when we
That
have,
doesn't seem like when I read that definition of the couch outside is not outside storage.
Right,
and
Then
so,
what is that?
that's trash.
That's trash.
yes,
But he might say it's storage.
Well, and they
For
could say
his
it's outdoor
cat, for his
furniture.
dog, or?
But what I'm saying, we'll round back around to this.
Right.
Yes.
Okay,
When we actually get to the zoning.
cool
piece.
beans.
Right.
All right.
and
I do have one on this outside storage, so it says, let me find it here, motor vehicle, blah, blah, blah. It says something about unmoved for more than 7 days,
Yeah,
really? I don't like that, I mean,
well, no, cause our four-wheeler sits almost all year long till elk hunting season.
like my F-150, I mean, I don't, it's.
You don't drive it necessarily.
I
every
don't
day.
drive it all the time, I mean, it sits for more than 7 days.
I don't drive my truck that often, and then my wife's.
So,
An 04 Liberty that sits parked for the last year that we haven't driven, I've got a battery maintainer on it,
I mean, people like
it's in my
to,
driveway though, but.
7 days is very limiting, but do
Yeah.
we need to put a time frame at all? Or
I
Well,
don't,
I don't know, I don't,
for 1 year for people?
Fair enough.
right.
I can tell you where this comes from, and that is a lot of codes and communities have rules that you can't store an inoperable vehicle on your property. And that is a way for communities or towns to enforce nuisance. And that's where that comes from. And I'm happy to take it out. I'm just explaining to you where that comes from, because people will store like an old vehicle that is inoperable and it just sits there. And some people take issue with that, and that's up to all of you.
I think we leave it, and if it comes down to it, because we have the code enforcement lady, and if she goes around and feels as if it's an eyesore, then we'll deal with it then.
I think that's probably the best way. to do it.
I agree, I mean,
Just let it be,
Yeah.
Though,
I like my truck,
just let it
I
be.
just don't drive it,
And if we deem it's an eyesore, code enforcement will come back around.
perfect. Sounds good to
But,
me.
but code enforcement's gonna be coming by. She's gonna look. She's not checking to see, is the engine warm? To determine if it's been
Right.
sitting there for 7 days. She can't tell if your car has moved in the last 7 days. She's gonna look, is your tires up? Are your tires down?
but there's like ATVs, snowmobiles that are seasonal, so 7.
Yeah, but again, most people are
Make it-
putting front.
We
Well,
can
not-
refine it, we can refine it to operable.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like
that
that,
would work.
yes. Operable.
Okay,
Although our snowmobiles aren't.
okay. Okay,
thank you, Ruth.
No problem.
That makes sense. Good thing we have her.
Parcel, park, oh, we didn't have a definition for park. You might wanna look at that. We talked a little bit about the pet animal facility. PUD, we're gonna talk about extensively tonight.
That's a big pack in the back.
Playground. Public hearing, public meeting, which is important. And recreational facility, remember we talked about that a couple weeks ago with regard to indoor and outdoor.
Right.
Okay.
Might want to look at that because we talked about that a lot.
Basically recreation facility, outdoor has to do with fees. Is that the,
To determine it, to move it away from being a park.
okay.
Yeah.
You have to have something that keeps it from being
makes
a
it
park.
different. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Does it need to have a piece about food also? Or no?
I'm not
Well-
sure what you're asking, like, can they sell food?
What about that same line, accessory uses may include the one from the indoor facility?
Yeah, that's just my question is, does there need to be anything about
Probably.
food sale or service on the outdoor one or no?
I
would
think it doesn't hurt. I mean, that's up to you guys, but
I think
I like it.
recreation facility should have the same
Same.
last line as the
Yeah.
indoor.
Indoor and
The
outdoor.
food, indoor sell clothing, equipment
Because they have
related,
outdoor.
yeah, it's,
like outdoor flea markets and stuff. I mean,
Well, and what about food trucks? Like,
well, that's different. A food truck is,
Different than,
A recreational facility.
but they could come and park at the. Cause it doesn't necessarily mean those fees have to run through that park if they could.
Right, it
Okay.
doesn't exclude them, it just.
Okay,
now if a food truck wants to do that, shouldn't that be like a special?
and probably be a special review. Yes, I'm not sure. We have
review?
food trucks.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Even in the code, actually, so I'm gonna make myself a note. So I don't forget as I go through this, because there's so much. Okay, next is RV parks. Never my friend, really.
So tiny houses?
This would not include tiny houses.
Hold on.
it says in here recreational
Relocating.
vehicle park does include
Oh,
motorhomes.
tiny houses.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
but
we
the problem with
Tiny
tiny houses is that, to me, they're permanent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Or they're there for a longer term, like a month or 3 months. Cause some people, like, you see a lot of like nurses or, people who are traveling around doing different jobs and they're there for a few months.
I
Well,
don't, that's,
The Yogi the Bear establishment has tiny houses on their property for rental, for recreation.
I have a friend that pulls a tiny house around that he travels with.
Yep,
It's just like a
Really?
camper,
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's a house. I mean, it looks like a house.
Yeah.
On a trailer, and he
Yeah.
travels around with it all over the place.
That's awesome.
so we gotta kind of keep that in there.
So,
I would think that with the recreational, as long as it's in a recreational area, not just pulled up in my driveway part and somebody living in it, that's
Yeah.
different.
Right.
yeah,
Recreational area pertaining to recreational vehicles, if they're just camping and using it as a camper,
Let them.
why
Yes.
wouldn't
Yeah,
we
yeah.
let them?
Because
do that?
otherwise, if you take that out and let's say, they travel with their little house, it's a trailer. You're
That's
gonna
where
get
they
that one
started.
person,
That's where tiny houses
Yeah.
started.
Yeah.
well, you're gonna get that one person, oh, that's a house, you can't have that here.
Well,
Right,
that's
Then
what I'm
suddenly the
wondering.
guy's
that-
kicked off of the,
Yeah,
Yeah.
cause I mean,
I would-
it's
I
tiny
feel bad
house, you
for 'em.
hear more permanency, but I get that they're very.
I just,
mobile.
They
when,
started out mobile.
when you said tiny house, I just picture someone coming into a recreational and starting to build a little house.
Yeah, no, that's not a
There's-
permanent
there's a
tiny
lot
house.
of them that-
You could
that
put
roam
permanent,
around.
not permanent tiny house or, whatever, but.
How about non-permanent tiny houses?
Yeah,
Tiny house.
But it does say cannot go for more than 30 days,
right.
So.
not.
So it
would
can't
have
be
to be
permanent anyway.
non-permanent.
Yeah,
So you cannot build a foundation for your tiny house at a
No.
recreational, okay.
they're on, like trailers. Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
they're just on trailers.
Well, and if
I think
that's the way they
someone
wanna
Elizabeth
travel,
has
that's
one
cool.
of those, has a little
Yeah, there
tiny.
used to be one across from the fire station. I don't know where it's still.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
still there.
It's still there.
Okay.
Yes, the tiny house on the tree, yeah,
Okay,
it is. That's what I was thinking of.
But that was under special review and Elizabeth approved it as a caregiver's home.
ah,
So that's what that tiny home is being used for across
Okay.
the street from the firehouse.
Really?
Yeah.
and that does make some sense. I mean, that's a good, especially if someone just comes in for 6 months or something, or.
I don't know
Okay,
how
but
long
that
they're
could be a
there, but
special
there,
use
it's
for
a,
you.
it is a special review and it's
Okay.
been approved
Alright, well,
for,
cool, then we just leave that there.
yeah.
How
Yep.
about tiny houses on wheels?
Okay, tiny houses stays, is that what we
Yes,
decided?
yeah, tiny houses can stay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm good.
recycling facility,
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty straightforward. We can move on.
restaurant,
That's
the
pretty
next,
straight.
the next one is salvage or wrecking yard.
We don't
Squishing
need
cars.
anyway. Mhm. That back minimum, we just.
Yeah, I say we leave the salvage and wrecking yards to Erie,
Yeah,
they like them over there, so.
what is the setback minimum is highlighted for?
It's the number.
Oh, that's where the
statute
number,
number.
the statute will go.
Oh, okay,
We just don't have the numbers yet.
okay,
Okay.
We're still
perfect.
playing with everything.
okay.
It doesn't
That
exist yet.
means it's established and good.
The next one's solar energy flush mounted. And then ground mounted, and then special use permit. Think, you wanna take a look at that for sure.
That's going to studio apartment away from your home.
Oh, you like special use? All right, we have, there we go. Cindy's moving along.
Sorry, I just kept reading.
She must be okay with it.
Sandy, I'm there with you.
Special use seems like,
I think special use.
Yeah,
sounds
reasonable.
perfectly fine to
Yeah.
me.
Okay, studio apartment, we talked about that. Not larger than 650 square feet. Structure,
Don't seem to know the outside of the house at 600 square feet. Use it for a craft room.
Exactly.
A granite pod,
I'm sorry.
that's all I had to say, granite.
Okay. On to truck stops.
Truck stop.
We don't have any of those in town.
no,
But they sure do come through, don't they?
Well, not today on you, cause they had the DOT inspection.
Oh,
did they?
Oh, they're like that.
Why it was.
Oh, which means they went somewhere else. We should have
They
those
just have
more
down
often.
there to 70 or whatever.
Okay.
Oops.
usually rattle the buildings in town.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Yeah,
I think it was
Or
5
the
this
setup.
morning.
I think we should start charging them a toll.
Yeah,
We use our,
It's loud.
there's a revenue right there, let's start charging tolls.
Oh,
that's, we don't have a definition for that yet.
I think we need to.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Have a toll road on 86.
Toll bridge.
Toll bridge.
Yeah.
Hey, then we can get that one fixed.
It'll be.
Ooh, and then that could fund our new bridge.
Yes, okay, that's it. All right, we have to put in a toll bridge.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to variance and veterinary clinic.
Yeah.
Keep moving.
And the veterinary clinic sounds just like what it is.
Mhm.
On the warehouses.
Okay, go to the next one. Oh, good. Let's keep.
Yeah, it's your last page of definitions.
Let's keep going. Where has distributors?
The last one is the telecommunications.
Oh.
All right, are we ready to have Ruth move us forward?
Yeah.
All right,
So-
Ruth.
Next is zone districts. We deleted one of the zone districts, and now we have light industrial, heavy industrial, and commercial professional.
Right.
So we kind of streamlined that. I didn't really change any of the definitions under town center, commercial, light industrial, mobile home park, light industrial, parks and recreation. Now we have multifamily, single family, high density, medium density, and low density. We have rural, residential, and agricultural. Now the more tedious part, and we have developing resource, remember we talked about that for annexation. We're gonna talk about annexation tonight. So let's go to the tough stuff, which is the table of uses for non-residential zone districts to make sure I got
Yeah.
this.
I'm gonna highlight the ones that we changed, so you want to double check those.
I mean, I'm happy to go through it one by one. You guys may want to do this. What do you think's easier?
I think they're just gonna look through it real quick and see if there's anything they want to change.
Okay,
That sound about right?
Yeah. Changed it all up.
Yeah, we did, but I want you to double check to make sure I
yes,
didn't
that'd be great.
mistake.
Sure, something, I know you didn't.
Anything's possible. But double check them.
Okay.
I highlighted what we changed, so I just, or at least what I think we changed, so I wanna make sure that I got them right. Cause I was taking notes fast.
I'm just gonna tell it to you.
If I took good notes. Well, that's just it, my notes were like scribble scrabble, so I was like, okay, I wanna make sure that I. did what
I
people
think they
wanted.
were pretty close. I don't know if you changed any of mine, but that I sent you. I think they're pretty close.
They were pretty close, there was just a couple I adjusted, but
Oh, good. Okay,
based on,
perfect.
based on my notes, but, that's why I want them to double check and make sure I am doing the will of the peeps.
You did, I did. You got one right here. though.
One, I know, I couldn't keep up. Yeah, like I said, I was taking furious notes, so I want to make sure I didn't get them wrong.
Never taken notes.
Geez, Lori. We trust.
We're
Oh, no.
We're good.
All right.
Yeah, so just If they look okay,
They look fine.
if you
Yeah,
don't see
and
anything that was
And we
crazy.
can always go back to, if we get home and we start looking at, and go,
Yeah,
Yeah.
So that's
yeah,
a-
so if you find something, you can always just email me and Ruth and.
Well,
Okay.
the home occupation doesn't. There's nothing in the home occupation
If we don't wanna have an occupation.
of a home. Do we need to put something in?
cause there's no SP or star,
Yeah, there's nothing there.
And which one?
home
Home
occupation.
Under,
Um,
wait, are you under residential or non-residential?
Residential.
Oh,
Well, I'm under non, but,
No.
and there's
Oh,
no numbers there. Well,
No, under non-residential,
No.
This is.
enumerate,
Keep it
there-
right.
This is
yeah,
residential.
under non-residential, it has it.
Okay.
Okay,
residential, it's assumed that you can have a home occupation.
So do we need to make sure we
Oh, so-
put Ps in there?
S's and P's in the next one.
Yeah,
On the same,
Yes.
would they be the same, right?
Yeah.
Non-use residential.
so,
no, no, that's not true, so unless you want, I mean, okay, let's. In a residential, on all of our new residential zone districts, is everyone comfortable with allowing a home occupation? Which means somebody can't have employees come to their house. They can't, it's, self-employed person working from their house.
Yes,
So those are all permitted uses.
Right.
yes,
Okay,
in the residential,
in the
you're
residential.
gonna,
In the.
If
permit that.
somebody, yes, cause if somebody's gonna have a home office,
okay,
because they were blessed to work from home, by
Yeah.
golly
okay,
geez.
so we're
Or the
putting,
pandemic.
so we're putting Ps in there.
Yep.
Yeah,
those are all these.
Okay, got it. All right.
Now, in
That's all.
non-residential zone districts, what we did is, let me go back up to that.
We had it in commercial. And then it was special for light, heavy and. Whatever PD is. Professional,
Parks, that's,
oh, parks, yeah,
Okay,
so,
all right, on to the next. With that, planned unit.
okay.
now, you may want to consider it in town center as a special review use. A home occupation.
if they're living there,
Yes,
Non-residential home operation.
if they're living there and they're in town center, more power to them.
So do you wanna permit it then, or P or an S?
Now I understand in non-residential uses.
Yes. Yeah, you're in non-residential now for home occupation, correct?
Yes,
Town center, commercial, so do we wanna have it as a P? Cause we have it as a P in,
I would say permitted,
In town center?
yes.
because if it's non-residential, they're not living there. But it's at their house,
no, if it's non-residential and it's in town center, you could have an accessory dwelling unit. And within that accessory dwelling unit, we're saying you could have a home occupation.
Yeah,
but it
Okay,
has
so you're
to be
gonna put a
permitted.
P in the town center then?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just keep them on it straight.
hey, we're halfway through the paper.
Let's keep going.
Okay. Any other problems, questions with residential stuff?
Lori, are you good? Okay. You
Okay.
guys good?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Ooh, moving on to the PUD.
Yep.
Okay, now I gotta go to my next screen, hold on. So I haven't merged all these yet.
Why not? Everything merges these days, Ruth, everything.
Well, because I'm not sure how we're gonna order the code, and I really don't want to screw up the code.
Okay, all right, we understand.
Kim's gonna kill me anyway with all these changes, but
Probably.
yeah. so let's just talk about PUDs just for a moment. And, you know, the largest PUD that we saw was with Kiowa Creek Meadows, which essentially was one sheet of paper showing proposed uses. And the town at that time negotiated that they would come back with, you know, more detail. And so the goal of this provision in the code is to create more structure to a PUD application. That doesn't mean that we couldn't get a project where we would approve a site-specific development plan and one sheet of paper, but it would certainly now have more limitations for us, and we would have more clear direction that wasn't available to us before through subdivision and zoning. So I'm not sure that makes sense because it's so hard to get your arms around, but PUD is really the ability of an applicant, property owner, developer to come in and say, well, I'm proposing land development that doesn't fit within your town code. And so I want to do something different. And we allow something different, but within that we try to create a structure that's not in line with our specific zoning code.
Okay.
That's the goal of a PUD. So, and yeah. So purpose and scope is really kind of general, essentially talking about what I just talked about, and that the state law permits us as a municipality to do these and approve them. And some basic standards, I urge you to actually review right here, 1 through 8, 9. So now we're gonna tell somebody, you know, it has to be consistent with the master plan, it should be safe.
Better late than
Back over there if you want.
20 feet between buildings instead of 0 lot lines. Open space, water and sewer service. I included Kiowa water and wastewater. Necessary commercial and recreational educational facilities. Promote open space. We're going to try to stay consistent with our zoning code and any specific development standards that are different. So that means like, oh, they can come in and say, well, I don't want a 20-foot front setback, I want 10. The criteria is set forth here. I really would like some input under criteria for evaluation under number 2, open space, which is saying 20% of the PUD should be open space. And to see if you all think that's too oppressive.
Do we have an example?
Well, think of like a map of a parcel of land, and 100%, it's 10 by 10, so it's 10,000 feet or 100,000 feet. So 20% of that would be dedicated to open space.
Yeah, I like that.
Is there
I
an
like that.
example in like Elizabeth, like?
Wouldn't you want more open space than 20%?
20% is actually a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you see, it doesn't include drainage ditches.
subdivision behind the firehouse.
Yeah. Or unusable open space, which means somebody can't come in and say, oh, you know, we're going to use this hillside that's got a 30% slope that nobody can walk up and down it. So it's gotta be functional.
Right,
Okay,
To me, 20% is,
not
know,
enough.
not too much.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, what Andrew just brought up, you brought up a good point. Is there any way we can do it to where the bigger the land mass that they're building on, the more we can add up, like 20%, 25%, 30%, so if it's like 100,000 acres. And we're
You'd
gonna
have
be
more
like,
open
oh
space,
yeah, only
30%
20% should be open space, can we do something like that to where?
Have a rolling,
Yeah, exactly, like a
because if
rolling.
it's,
Here's the thing that can get you on that. Independence is a perfect example. The county has it set up that if you give, and this is where it works, but if you give so much open space, they have a baseline. But if you give away more open space, you basically get a developmental credit. So you can get things closer together. So that's why Independence is laid out. It's very intensely, it's dense where it's done.
Mhm.
And there's all this open space around it, but it's just, I mean, it's just slammed together where it's done. And
Okay.
so that's where that give or take is. But
Oh, I see what you're saying,
with realities of us,
yeah.
you know, town of Cottonwood, we got two really development parcels. One's just south of Fawn Valley, so it's, what is it, 90 acres? Right, and the other one's up by the water tower.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, 60 acres,
Something like.
you know, so 20% of, you know, I mean, really, that's.
Okay, I see what you're
That's
saying, Trevor.
20 acres, and really, that's half of. Not quite half of Fawn Valley,
So-
probably a third of Fawn Valley. Here's where I would. I guess just me thinking out loud with this
Mhm.
group. Is when they did Fawn Valley, they set aside so much of that as the open space, that's where the little. The other
Okay,
Cottonwood Park is and everything else. And some of that is non-functional because it is part of the drainage deal there. What I'd be curious to research is figure out what that is, how much percentage
Percentage
that
it is.
was. And then for you guys,
yeah,
you go, well, with that, they gave up, I mean, let's pick a number, maybe it's 15%, maybe it's 30%. But then that gives you, I would say, gives you a little bit more of a basis
Yeah,
to go, yeah, that, you know, we could have. Cause everything at the end of the day has a little bit of negotiation to it, but it does give you at least a direction of what you think. Should or, you know, what's fair, and equitable for everybody.
well, and this says a minimum of 20%, so, I mean, if
yes,
we can go 30, or we can, but if we wanna say like 20 is
you're
the
drop
bare
dead
minimum,
bottom.
yes, exactly.
but I think what Trevor's and correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying is like the more you take from them. The more they're gonna
They're-
fit into
right,
that
and-
little area, they're gonna be like, okay,
They're
well
gonna put
then
them
we're
this
gonna
much
make
closer.
it 5 feet away from each house.
And can we control that?
Yes,
If-
we do control that, the
Okay,
setbacks. I mean, that's,
Right.
you know, something that's
There's
that's
firewalls.
different, you know, the above, we're trying to control
It's already
Good point,
made.
Trevor.
setbacks and
That makes sense.
not have high density
But
Um,
huge.
residential housing unless the town wants it.
so we could do a minimum of 20%, because then it's 20 feet over in the setbacks and all of that, and then in between buildings, so that would keep us.
So the setbacks on a unit, on a lot would not be counted toward open space.
I think we leave it the 20
Yeah.
minimum.
I like
is
20.
Yeah,
But should we try to get
I can
Trevor said,
see if
like,
I
an
can
example
research
and
up,
see,
I have it written down, I'll research and see if I can figure out what the Fawn Valley setup was.
okay,
At
maybe
the
I'll
percentage.
drive by Independence and just look and see what that's looking like.
It's,
What Independence did though is they used their open space for drainage.
Yeah, and that's not.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, cause they've got some little cuts between homes that's probably 20 feet wide. And I don't know, and to me, that looked like drainage, but And to me, that's not open space.
So
That's-
if,
If-
but in
not
the,
usable.
So if you look at it, cause I went to all the meetings on it, but if you look at it from an aerial view, like pull it up on Google Maps. And you can see where this cluster and the little fingers are of this, but then here's a open space. Part of that open space still is where they got the, all the other agencies, so, you know, they had to go with, you know, fire, everybody else's agency had to file in. And they said, well, we need this kept open, and the whole reason they left that was for wildlife to be able to migrate,
Oh,
so antelope.
what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a migration.
It was a
path that they
migration
did
path through
keep.
there.
Right, but
But-
it seems like it would be hard to be a migration once there's a bunch of houses.
But that's why it was
Yeah,
open
but
space.
Okay, but that's considered the open space.
And then some of that did fall into, they did use it as a
As a
drainage.
Okay,
They counted that, cause then, you know, but
but that's something to be considered though, cause if it's a migration route. I mean, if you're letting kids skateboard and stuff, or even just walking and dogs walking and all of that, that still interrupts migration.
cause
I
yeah,
don't know.
back behind Pond Valley, that's a total migration, so,
all this back
But-
out
but
is
I'm
a
kinda like,
migration.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is.
They'll just migrate down the alley.
Raccoons.
They were, they were
Right.
quite
Back
in
by
my
my
yard.
house, foxes.
But it is something to be considered. I mean, maybe
Yeah,
it doesn't get addressed here, but something to keep in mind.
Okay, so they're using drainage as open space.
And they used, yeah, and part of the way they got around it was they realized that it was whatever she clarified it as like non-usable.
Undevelopable area.
But
So I
yeah.
don't, I mean, the goal here is for that not to happen to us.
Can we
Yeah,
put like?
right.
You're not gonna
exclude-
have open
Yeah.
space counted.
It says that.
It
Read
already
it.
says it.
So
yeah.
reread it, it says it has to be usable space.
Yeah, it says
Oh, okay, yeah.
unusable open space such as unusable drainage, detention and conveyance areas shall not be included
In
in
the
the
20%.
required 20%.
Yes.
Perfect.
Like
Alright,
it.
I'm good with it then.
I will double check on Fun Valley and see what their percentage is.
Thank you.
For the next meeting.
Curiosity,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the next item, which, again, I think helps us not to have an independence, for example, as the mayor and I have been there, together, is, you can't have 15 residential dwelling units, per acre. So you can't get 20 units per acre,
Okay,
30 units per acre.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, mixed uses are always good. Maintenance of common property, this is something about who's gonna be responsible for the common property, so the town doesn't inherit that obligation. The town certainly reserves the right to take on maintaining property, but this says if you're gonna come to town, you're gonna do it yourself.
Yep.
Yep.
forever,
Mhm.
until, okay.
In terms of process and procedure, you have a pre-application conference and then a sketch plan. And now we're laying out a sketch plan. I don't know if everyone recalls, but the current code says only certain types of proposed uses are required to go through this process, and we've eliminated that now. So there's no confusion. If somebody
Okay.
just wants to do a commercial or a mixed use or a mix of uses of residential, and it doesn't comply with straight zoning, they will do this process. So that was a problem before, and we're gonna get rid of that.
What, do you get rid of problems?
Referrals are in sketch.
Real quick, in the PUD sketch plan requirements, is there a line in here that talks about migration paths?
Right, you just
Statement by a
stated qualified.
qualified profession, thank you. I knew if I asked about it,
You jump right out at you.
Uh-huh.
It's number 21.
Number 21, okay.
Thank you.
Oh, yep. Okay, now we can move on.
Yes.
Referral.
Yeah, that's usually where you're gonna get that, is your referral agencies. I'm trying to find. Then sketch plan. There's a requirement now that. And I'm looking for it. Is. We might want to add something where you can combine. Sketch and preliminary. I'm never adverse to that. Just, puts a burden on the developer to do more, but to accommodate somebody combining sketch and preliminary, I don't see anything wrong with that. So I need to make myself a note about that. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
So.
But on your PUD sketch plan, and that
Mhm.
goes on for 5. You've got the proposed open space, common property uses, including verification, blah, 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 of 25%.
I know. I just caught that and changed it. Thank you. I saw that.
Number 5. Just try to change it to 20 instead of 25.
Or 25.
Yeah.
Number 5.
Okay, right there, okay.
Oh, there's a provision that says. These improvements can't be any cost, that's an annexation. Okay. I'm getting tired now. It's like past my bedtime,
Mine too.
Mhm.
at least for thinking. Anyway, now we have criteria for the town to approve it. The ability to provide additional conditions, and then a final plat, which goes with subdivision hand in hand. One of the things we're gonna be working on next is subdivision.
Okay.
And then there's a provision that allows them to have vested property rights in the PUD. And most importantly, I've added a provision about amendments to the PUD, which was also something that the existing code does not have. So this kind of lays it out. So it's really clear what is minor and major amendments.
Okay.
And what process we go through for minor ones. Minor ones are designed to be efficient, and major ones have to go through the public process. And that you have to have a valid PUD for that specific planning area to move forward with building permit. So. Any questions about that? Hello? Any questions, guys?
They were just percolating.
Reading.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Sorry. I smoked what you were doing. You were percolating.
We are.
You're percolating. The stuff's coming into the pot.
Something's burning.
Wow. We don't want to burn. We just want it to come into the pot. Percolate.
I don't imagine there's any way to put in here cause I know that they're gonna have to do a traffic study. But one of the things that concerns a lot of the people in the town is that they're gonna bust out on 45 and then cut around Shoshone, cut around Chippewa, cut around whatever else is left there.
It's already going. I mean,
And, go down by Kalish's and honk their horn twice, like I do. And,
You and everybody else.
We do 3 times.
so
My neighbor lady does.
somewhere down the road when we start,
Every morning.
somebody comes in and says, hey, we wanna put houses back here. I want you to just be thinking about how we could control that traffic or how we can take care of
Encourage
traffic,
it.
not to impact the residents on this side of the road or on the other, where I'm coming from.
like encourage it out onto the main highways.
Yeah,
Well, then you
It'd be
get,
nice.
The residents over here.
yeah.
That really comes up with subdivision.
Mhm.
And all of the traffic requirements and road improvements, drainage, so on. That's where those requirements exist.
Yeah, that's why I put that up, because I was just reading through that. There's gotta be a way to, there's gotta be a way to not impact our 4-way stop sign down here. Not impact traffic coming offUte Street type thing. So that's something we'll have to talk about quite extensively with whoever wants to do this.
Is that something you could put into a contract to whoever decides to build back there, what have you? Can you put that into a contract? Stating that they're not, that they can't have use of the neighborhood
Like
roads?
Through
That's-
traffic.
I don't think you
Like
can
through
make
traffic
people
and
do
other
that.
subdivisions.
It's a public.
They're public roads.
They're public roads. We can't
And
stop
so-
people.
And I'm not. Sometimes I say things and they come off aggressive, so
You're good.
please forgive me. But it's no different than if somebody, let's say 2 miles down the road,
Mhm,
builds a development there.
mhm.
And they put 400 houses and 150 of those cars decide instead of sitting in line
Yeah.
up here at the
Oh,
fire
yeah,
station,
okay.
they're gonna cut through. I mean, the only way we could do it is we close the road. We
Yeah.
make everybody go that way.
So we can basically just encourage it.
I-
I mean, we try, but it's,
But
I,
it's already happening.
when I was at Fort Collins,
Mhm.
at Colorado State University, you won't believe how it went from, you jump over and get on college and go that way to get to school to, oh yeah, if you cut through Swallow
Yeah.
and this way, you can get there 5 minutes quicker.
Yep.
And pretty soon everybody has
Everybody's
that
doing it.
figured out.
And
And
you
then
get 10
now
minutes,
that
right?
has Google app, that, I mean, I got kids I work with that I don't think they can get to the bathroom without the.
Google app.
to tell them which way to turn.
right?
Yeah.
But they follow that and it's put fastest path.
Yep.
So all of a sudden I'm
It's
like,
gonna take
where
you
the hell
time.
are you going? He goes, this says fastest path. I go, this is stupid. We're driving through a little residential,
Yep.
Yeah.
cutting through. So I don't know, I mean, what really needs to happen, which isn't gonna probably happen in my lifetime, is we need to get a secondary route across the creek
Yeah.
for Kiowa.
Yes.
Yeah,
But I mean, I don't know how we, how we do that.
You'd have to go
I-
through Malone's and that ain't happening.
Yeah, I totally get everything you guys, down, that you go through down there, but honestly, if they build the, whatever Albert County East is, and those people come to Kiowa to drop their kids off, how much traffic's gonna go, let's say, right in front of your house?
Yeah.
I know.
that's true.
I got a plan for that.
That's true.
End of the day, we got a bullseye on us, and we ain't ready.
I think part of it though is we gotta take into consideration children walking to school, cause like everybody's coming out at the same time and going fast down this way. I mean,
Yeah,
I
there's
don't-
no
there's no
stopping
side-
it.
There's no sidewalks down there either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
and that could be something as part of the subdivision plan, once it starts being worked on, say, okay. We understand this, but part of it is also includes, you're gonna have to come back and add sidewalks to these areas. Yeah,
So
because,
kids walking to school, we don't have buses,
So-
you have to walk.
So we can't stop them from coming down it's a public street. But can we add on, because a lot of the developments nowadays are metropolitan districts to where they're having to pay extra to have a new development. Do we take some of that and say, this is gonna be a provision and update our streets and our sidewalks? Part of your metropolitan or metro district is going to pay for the upgrades on our streets, cause you're gonna travel on them regardless.
I mean, part of that's on, when you go through your impact fees.
Yeah, it's already in there.
This is, those impact fees are supposed to offset things that they're gonna do in a sense to this town. That's the way impact fees are used, should be used.
Mhm.
Now, how governments sometimes use them is mind boggling and, the hell with that, we need a new county building, or something like, but that's where some of those impact fees are. And then there's also the things where you're going through and you go, hey, we're gonna do this, but we're gonna need some more in-kind gestures to make sure that
Yes.
this is a safer deal.
Yep.
But
That's what
the
I'm
traffic study,
Yeah.
and I don't know if there's something that should be in there, Ruth, on that traffic study. I mean, if this is something that, because of this development, we're gonna need a light. Which
Yeah.
we're already due for one, let's say a fire, in front of the firehouse. To do an intersection light right now, ballpark numbers is about $1 million.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, and you think about it, it's
Other
only,
one, if
Four-
it's on 80, is it on 86 though?
Yeah,
Is that
86
CDOT's?
Elizabeth's first light at County Road 13 and Highway 86.
Mhm.
Jeff Shaw, when he was the cop over there, went out and bought a used traffic signal and put it up. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I remember he did that.
yeah,
I'm just saying is, if it's on the
No.
highway though, is it?
that was
That
a
was the highway.
I mean, but is that CDOT's responsibility?
Well, sure, but they weren't moving.
They
It's
weren't
just like
moving.
our bridge will be 10 years down.
Got it.
won't even
So we did it in.
Yes, that, okay.
So it's just,
That was right after that fatal.
and I can tell you,
Ooh,
it's weird growing up here, but I could tell you when they put the stoplight in Franktown. And honest to God, in Elizabeth, you could tell, as the cars come through Elizabeth, you could tell who was in line at that stoplight. I could tell when that first stoplight went up in Elizabeth, because you could see them coming down the hill into Kyle.
Yeah,
Now, I can't.
it's solid.
I can't tell when the lights change. It's
Yep.
just,
It's
So-
solid all the way.
so that's kind of where we're at.
We're gonna have to have a long discussion about traffic.
Yes.
Yeah, that,
All right,
yeah,
let's move on though with this.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about annexation. So, annexation is really set forth in our state statute, in Colorado law. And you submit a pre-petition. There's a process, and the petition has specific statutory requirements. I'm happy to go through that with you. But mostly that all municipal services can be paid for. An analysis of revenues, if any, that will be generated to Kiowa and other municipal service providers. That's important. Proof that properties currently being provided adequate water and sewage, or plans that they're going to be able to provide it, and at no cost to our community. That is the goal. Fire protection. I think I get the name of the fire protection wrong. Is it Elbert County Fire Protection District?
Kiowa Fire Protection.
Kiowa Fire.
I did like that, and I was like, that's wrong.
No, it's not. Kiowa Fire. Our boundaries are within Elbert County, but
eligibility is really a statutory thing about where it's located, how it's located to our municipal boundaries and ownership and so on. They have to show subdivision and zoning with annexation. We can create an annexation agreement that provides for proper roads, water, sewer, storm drainage, public land, water dedication requirements, utilities, easements, and compliance with our laws. So the best part about this, oh, there's a typo. Is that it really tells a developer or property owner if they want to annex here, they're gonna have to pay their way and ensure that it doesn't adversely impact the town.
Okay.
At the same time, they can also de-annex and basically leave us hanging out in the withers, correct?
Well,
They-
I didn't put the de-annexation in our town code, but that process is again in our state statutes. There's a lot of requirements to de-annex. It's not simple, but it can occur.
Yeah, because I believe Elizabeth West
Yes, that
just
was,
got de-annexed
it was a vote of the town, but it
Yes.
took quite a bit of work to do that, and then
and went to court.
it went to court, and it's, yes,
And
it
they
is,
won.
it is de-annexed, yes. So, which
So-
cost the town like $120 million
Yeah.
Correct.
in revenue.
Yeah.
So, the people in town voted to de-annex it.
Why?
I don't think they quite understood, because, I mean, the gentleman, the developer owns the property.
Marshall. yeah.
Yes, and they de-annexed it, but what I don't think they understood was he is still gonna develop it, it's his property. But now the town does not get the benefit of the water tap fees, the sewer tap fees, and they,
They brought it to a vote
yes.
and the town said, nope. we don't
Which
want
actually,
we
and it
don't
was a
want
tiny percentage of the town.
So do they still have rights to their sewer and water,
No.
Elizabeth? They had to do their own.
They'll have to do their own,
Okay.
just like Walmart and all of those had their own water systems. So, he was also gonna donate like $10 million to the school stuff. And so the town has lost out on all of that. It was not a good choice by the town.
So what about a school in that situation? Like the kids just go to the public school?
They go
and
to
he doesn't have to go to school?
Unless Elbert County has something written in there for specifics.
Right, cause now
You
it's,
know?
now it's county property.
They
Yeah.
shot themselves in their foot.
Yep, they did.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, they did.
So, and now the town will have to make up the revenue that they lost because they're still going to, the streets will still be used by all those extra people.
The
The
schools
schools
and
will still
everything.
be used, so there's gonna be extra traffic, so then that means things like rates have to go up
Yeah.
to cover it.
So
So,
everybody else has to pay for it.
Here we go.
yes,
And-
so now the town is gonna have to pay for all the extra.
So does that, are we covered? Are we covered?
The town would, this town would have to vote. If there was something here that wanted to de-annex, the town would have, it would have to cut, and I understand it's kind of a complicated process, but then it would have to come to a vote by the town.
But
goes
how do we
by court
protect the
system or something.
town?
Well, you don't
can't.
bring it up for a vote.
You Bring it up for a vote, develop, not develop.
Ruth, do we have anything else we need to cover?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Anybody has any ideas or concerns, feel free to shoot me an email, and then I have to kind of circle the wagons and figure out what we're gonna do for the next meeting. So we'll probably finish the zoning code at the next meeting and then start working on subdivision, which is gonna be even a little more painful than this, but
Ruth, are we currently on track? Based on kind of your thought processes to get this done within the time frame that we have set forth, or are we behind the 8 ball still in regards to getting it, or are we kind of in a middle ground?
Rather try to stay ahead a week or so.
And I think having 2 meetings has been great, and so we've continued to have 2 meetings a month,
Okay,
and
I mean, do we need to go to 3 meetings because we're getting down to the wire? I just wanna make sure that we're covering all the things that we need to do, or do we need to start
I would
maybe
say,
talking
would-
about an extension?
I would just say, let's talk about it in January. We can always extend the moratorium for 30 days, and it can track with the approval of the town code updates.
Okay. I just wanna make sure that we're doing what we can to make sure this gets done as we need to get it done time-wise.
So I think there's been a lot of really unfortunate circumstances that have transpired, but we've stayed on track.
Okay,
Right.
And it's actually substantially more time consuming doing this than I had anticipated, and then having Kim out and Sasha having to figure out all these new rules and how towns really work has been frustrating. So my hope is that when Kim returns, we can even be better at what our specific goals are,
okay,
our timing and scheduling. I mean, I'm not trying to be avoidant. I'm just, personally have had, I think I've been to Florida twice since we started this. And, it's just been hard, but we're on track and we've gotten a lot done. I mean, getting through those definitions and those zone districts, that's a lot of tough stuff.
yes, okay,
And we saw how easy PUD and annexation was. We're gonna clean up our development fees, impact fees. We'll do I'll look at vested rights. I'm not sure we really need to do anything there. And I think variances we probably need to look at, and our special review use process. So those are probably like the cleanup things we'll see on the agenda for our next meeting, and then we'll start in with subdivision. So we might really start going faster.
okay. So right now, we currently have our next meeting on October 18th. Is that's our regularly scheduled meeting? Is that going to work for you, Ruth, to make sure that we're ready with all the paperwork for that next meeting? Or do we need to
Move it to the 25th.
move it, yes, to the following week?
Moving it to the 25th would be great.
Okay? Are you guys all good with moving it to the
Yeah.
25th?
28th or 25th. Yeah.
Okay.
So move the October,
18th meeting, we're gonna go to October 25th.
And then go to 2 in a row at that point.
We'll have to play that one by ear to
But
see,
we're still probably the first Wednesday, but once on the 25th, then we'll
Yeah.
yes,
figure out what the best days are
Okay,
for November.
yes,
so we're gonna
Yes.
move the October 18th meeting to the 25th.
yes.
Okay.
Just because by then, Kim should be back after that,
That's a good idea.
and that way it starts getting, back into a rhythm.
October 25th, 6 o'clock.
Yes,
Right here, same place, same time.
I'll send you an email.
But I'm really confident that Kim is gonna have something to say.
Oh, I'm sure she is.
So come early.
So-
Bring your dinner with you.
Do we get pizza?
And there may be things that I've forgotten about truly. And so,
I'll put the pizza on the list. Got it.
all right, anything else do you need from us tonight, Ruth?
now is it raining, snowing there?
Not yet.
sprinkling a little.
Don't say the S
It's only 15 drops, so that we don't call that much.
Right.
That's 15 inches.
Don't forget Harvest Fest Saturday,
Yes,
noon to 4.
yes, I
But we're
believe so.
done with Ruth though, right? So Ruth can go
Yeah.
then.
Yep. We'll see you
Good night,
guys. Thank you so much.
Ruth,
Take care.
thank
And
you
Harvest.
for all your work.
What, 12, what did you say?
It's like noon to
Saturday, noon
four.
to 4,
Noon to
Yep,
4?
down at,
down at 40 Mile.
yep.
And you know that solar, that'll be at the tail end of the solar eclipse.
We're all gonna be blind from looking at it.
I'm in New Mexico, so.
That's right,
I
you
have a bunch of friends that are going down there to see it.
That's right, she's. going
And
to
it's the balloon
festival.
fest too.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it is?
Yes,
Oh,
the
yeah.
balloon this weekend.
Okay.
There's an app on your phone you can use to look at this moon. Did you know that?
The moon?
Or the eclipse
Oh, yeah,
thingy?
but I have camera lenses
Oh, I
special.
know, I'm sure you do.
Fun,
Yeah.
shows pictures.
All
Okay,
right,
so.
Okay, anything else, Madam Chair?
Nope. So do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:31 on October 11th?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion has been made and meeting is adjourned.